Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So about a week and a half ago I did say I was going to make a Bulgari money method into a YouTube short. However, I realised when I was making the short that it just kind of fell out of context and a lot of information was actually left out. However, overall I would go on to say this is perhaps the easiest and most simple money method of, well, forever in GT7 history. So let's dive straight into this one. It is super simple to achieve, so let's head over and do step one. So first things first, you're going to need to buy the Bulgari VGT for 1,000,000 credits. Now I know there's the people out there that kind of go on to say, well, all these easy money methods tell me to actually spend money first. And I'm assuming those people have never heard the motto, you need to spend money to make money. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing here with Gran Turismo 7. So at the end of the day, 1,000,000 credits is absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things when it comes to GT7. So go ahead and pick the car up. Now one thing you will notice when you head over to the tuning shop is that there's literally nothing to buy for this car apart from the likes of tyres and power restrictors and ballast. That is literally your only options available, which means this is a very easy money method to achieve and very inexpensive in the kind of grand scheme of things. You don't have to add almost anything to this car apart from some racing tyres, some intermediates and a tiny bit of ballast. And whilst in my opinion it does typically turn me away from VGTs when it has little to no options for tuning, I do think overall this makes it a very beginner friendly method. So once we've done that, we're going to head over to the tuning sheet. All you'll need is a set of racing softs, intermediates and heavy wets. That is the entire bunch of tyres you'll ever need for this car. Then if we look at the actual tuning sheet, you'll notice that there's almost no option to tune anything. The only thing you'll need to change is ballast to 11 with position of -44, no power restriction, and then as you can see all the options like aero you can't even adjust. You can't even add the likes of turbochargers, air cleaners and such, apart from a few, I guess, miscellaneous things such as handbrakes and brake balance, so add them if you really want to, but that is literally it. Next up, you want to turn your game to easy difficulty. Again, if you're trying to make easy money, don't make it hard for yourself for no reason whatsoever. Then we're going to focus on a series of events called the WTC or World Touring Car 700. So there's a bunch of these events and this car is eligible and great in every single one of them. However, there is two that I do want to turn your attention to, mainly being the 24-hour Le Mans and the Mount Panorama. These two are the best of the bunch, and whilst Le Mans is the best paying of the bunch, if you want a race that is going to be dry only and a little bit quicker, however does pay less, Bathurst is a great other option instead of running the typical 700 at Le Mans. So welcome to the part of the video where we actually talk about the car and its, I guess the build itself, but there's not really any build to talk about. So we're going to mainly just refer to the Bulgari in its standard form because that's essentially what we're running. There's no full-on tuning here. So the Bulgari itself is surprisingly good on both its tyre life and its fuel consumption, and it is a perfect fit for the 700 pp category. So overall, I mentioned this in the review as well, the standard performance of the car is, well, pretty terrible. Now I do feel like this was down to the tyres that I put on by default. They don't seem good enough for the car and it can be rather quite sketchy. However, once you put a racing compound of tyres on, not only does it become a very good and easy to handle car, and on top of that it sits absolutely perfectly in that 700 pp range with next to nothing to actually do in terms of the tuning. That for me makes this probably the outright easiest money method in the entire game. The fact that you don't actually have to go in and fine tune the car itself. So let's talk about how we're going to run this one. No, we are not going to go to fuel mix 6. The way I recommend running it is just fuel mix 1 straight away. Now we have got a bit of extra ballast in there, but it's almost non-existent. This is a very lightweight car to begin with, sitting at 1,000 kilograms. So the total weight of this vehicle is now 1,011 kilograms, which is next to nothing. We're obviously not going to have to turn down the fuel mode because this thing's great in fuel, and whilst it will only typically say you've only got around about 3.5 laps to 4 laps maximum to actually run this car, The main reason we're going to keep it in fuel mix 1 and not nerf the car to kind of save fuel is because there's almost no need to. Now, the majority of the time at the WTC 700 for Le Mans, it will rain on anywhere from lap 2 to lap 3. That is the typical point where it will rain. Now, it isn't always going to be set in stone that it will rain. In fact, I had a dry run here, so you're going to see me kind of changing up the strategy as we go through, but 9 times out of 10 you will get that rain at that point. At that point, you box in, you put the wets on, and you cover off the rain and add that extra fuel in and just go as long as you can. You will get a maximum of 4 laps out of this car on that second run running fuel mix 1. So it's a bit less on the initial run, a bit more on this secondary run, meaning that you can complete the event with one single pit stop in fuel mix 1, no matter what happens, whether that's rain or shine during your event. Just keep monitoring the weather radar and you should be able to predict exactly what the rain's going to do. Now here I can see that the rain is actually going to miss the track itself, and then all I'm going to do just to cover that off, because my initial run seems to use a bit more fuel than my second run, I'm just going to nerf it down to fuel mix 6 just to finish up the end of the lap with at least one more lap of fuel. So I'm on lap 3, I'm turning it down to 6. I know the car absolutely be fine. As you can see, it's only used 0.1 of a lap of fuel in fuel mix 6. I've covered it off, I've turned the engine back up, and I've completed that 4th lap. Then all I'm going to do is just box in at the end of the 4th lap. Now I do have obviously that bit of rain on the radar, but it isn't going to touch us anyway, so I don't need to worry about that. All I'm going to do here is put another set of softs on. Whilst the softs do drop off at this point in the race, they're still not that sketchy, although on the actual graphic itself it does look like the tyres are almost to the point where they're going to get really difficult to drive. But it's not the case with the Bulgari. It remains relatively stable no matter what your tyre wear's at. So all I'm going to do is put the softs on and fill the car to full. Now typically, even if it is raining at this point, I can still have that covered off. In fact, if it does rain, you're probably in for a 6-lap stint. So again, you're still just going to do the first pit stop. Again, I'm going to get a fully dry run here. So all I'm going to do is put the softs on, put the fuel to the maximum, and then just go all the way to the end. Again, even if I complete 6 or just 7 laps, I'll probably be able to do a bit of a stop and wait, considering just how good this car is overall. And the fact that if it does rain, the AI will be caught out. And if it doesn't rain, they're typically much slower than this car. It is able to get into the 3-minute barrier as well. However, I wasn't able to do it on this run, considering I kind of, absolutely went off at one point, just not concentrating. So here we go. We've completed 7 laps so far, and we still have over a minute to go. However, the AI themselves are pitting in and such like that, so they're just no worry at all. We're pretty much lapped the entire field by this point. So all we're going to do, crawl up to the line and just stop and let the counter tick down. As soon as it has, we're just going to pull ourselves across the line, and that is going to be it for the entire race. As long as you've got the gap, you should be able to pull that stop and wait method off, and no matter what, whether you're on lap 6 or lap 7. So let's have a look at the overall time for this car. Obviously, it's going to be limited to at least 30 minutes, so 30 minutes 11 seconds. Again, I didn't pay attention when the timer actually ticked down, so I did have to drive over in the end, just a little bit over that time. In terms of fastest lap, it was a 4-minute 1.025. However, on my overall fastest lap, that was 1.3 seconds up. We did end up having a little bit of an off from just not concentrating. So it is possible to get in that 3-minute barrier. 825,000 credits for this one. Such an easy money method. Again, I was going to make this into a short, but it was just leaving so much out of context and so much out of the actual short itself. So yeah, I just thought I'd make a quick full video on it. This is overall, in my opinion, now the easiest way to make money, especially if you're a beginner. It is so beginner friendly. You don't have to fine tune or anything like that. Let me know of any other cars you might want to see down below. Also hit up my business email if you do have any of your own builds that you might want to see on the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and a big thank you to all of my channel members. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.